Hi. Today we're reviewing the game Watergate from Capstone Games. You can see the box here. This is a two-player card-driven game that plays in 30 to 60 minutes. I think it's more realistic to say 45 minutes to 60 minutes. Um, I've done a separate video on the components, so I won't go through the components, but you can see in their high quality, by the way. But as you can see, we've already done the setup. This is a game, small board, mounted board. This is a game with a low footprint, very portable, small box, a very easy to learn game about the Watergate investigation and the Watergate scandal. Let me start by saying that this is not a war game per se. So there's no obviously it's a political game. There's no armies or fighting involved. But I think it will mostly appeal to players who are war gamers and strategy aficionados. I think for people that like games like Twilight Struggle, this kind of scratches the same itch, and I'll explain why. Um, Let me also say that I'm not going to explain what the Watergate scandal was. If you don't know what it is, then you are most likely not going to be interested in this game. If you know what it is and you're interested in it, fine, you'll like this game. If that's not your thing, then you know if you don't like the theme because this is a highly thematic game, you're not going to be interested. This is a card driven game, like I mentioned, and so all the actions are going to be based on cards. There's a separate deck of cards for the Nixon player and for the editor. So that they're completely separate decks. So there's no mixing like in Twilight Struggle, and the cards are going to be used to do all the actions. Um, and there is a tug of war mechanic where basically there's this track here, and you're going to move the tokens on the track one way or the one side or the other. Um, and it's an asymmetric game. Basically, uh, some games usually say that they're asymmetric, etc., but this is really asymmetric in the sense that one player is Nixon, and the objective with Nixon is to put roadblocks on the investigation and survive for enough time to make it sure that he makes it to the end of the term. So if Nixon makes it to the end of the turn, then Nixon wins the game immediately. Whereas the editor player, so the reporters, what the editor player is trying to do is to connect two informants, and you see here we have the spaces for the informants, and each informant has a tile. So we're going to place, so this is Rosemary Woods. We would place Rosemary Woods here. And we're going to use tiles to connect the informants through evidence to Nixon. And the tiles are going to be these. For example, this is a green and yellow tile, which can be used in any yellow space or in any green space. If at any point there are two informants that are fully connected to Nixon, then the editor uh, player wins the game because they've been able to, uncover the scandal and connect it to the president. Um, so yeah, so the game is quite asymmetric, as you can see. There's, by the way, by the way of theme, there are three different types of evidence. So blue represents the checks for Nixon's reelection campaign. Yellow represents the ground plans for the Watergate complex, and green are transcripts of the White House tapes. And all the cards, like I said, this is highly thematic because all the cards have characters from the investigation, and events, conspirators, different events. So all of these cards, and they're explained in the rule book, have theme and meaning. Presidency evidence here, the event here, the president speaks. I'm gonna do a quick rundown of how the game plays. What is the flow of the game? I want to be exhaustive, but I'll give a quick idea of how the game works, and then we're just gonna go wrap up with some thoughts and the score on this game. So the game is divided into three phases. There's an initial phase where players draw the cards, and how many cards you draw is determined by the initiative. So basically, this is an initiative card that has two sides, and if you won initiative in the previous round, then you draw 5 cards. Your hand is 5 cards. If you did not win initiative, then you draw 4 cards. Obviously, if you have 5 cards, you're going to play theoretically one more round than the one more turn than your opponent. Um, the whether you have the initiative or not is determined by this token here, the white token. The white token is the initiative token. The player who has the initiative token gets the initiative, or gets to keep the initiative, and this token is going to be moved around the track one way or the other. Then what Nixon is going to do, we have this black bag, and the black bag, I don't know if you can see it, but the black bag is filled with evidence tokens. Nixon is going to draw randomly 3 tokens from this evidence bag, and they're going to place them here, and Nixon is going to look at them. So at any point, Nixon can look at these evidence tokens because they're face down, as you can see, and see what we have here. So we have yellow and green, we have green and blue, and we have blue. So some of them have 2 colors, and some of them have just 1 color. And basically, the editor can never look at the face down tokens. And then we're gonna do the actual bulk of the game, which is the card phase. And to play cards, the player that has the initiative starts, and they're gonna play a card from their hand. Let's say that we had this card, and like in card driven games, the cards have a dual have 2 ways they can be used. One is this value part here at the top, and the other one is the actual event. So the event does something that's written on the card. Some of them are, for example, this is a reaction that you can use to block another card. So I'm just, some of them are reactions. I'm just gonna try to see. So, for example, this one. This one is not a reaction. So reaction you play if your opponent has played something. But this one, event Deep Throat. If you play it for the event, you do whatever the card says. So, for example, this one says, this is the Nixon deck, by the way. No, sorry, this is the editor deck. So you remove 1 face down. No, sorry, this is actually, yeah. So you remove 1 face down picture tile from the informant space, and you return it to the potential informant supply, and you move from the board, and you move the initiative token 3 steps. So you would move this initiative token 3 steps. Yeah. So, and by the way, this is the Nixon token. This is the Nixon deck. And in most cases, when you do the event, you remove the card from the game. So the card is completely removed from the game, can't come back. If you play it for its value side, after you play the card goes on your discard pile, and then it can eventually come back to your hand, which you can use to play again for the value or for the event. And basically the value part tells you what you can move. So you can move, this says a token, so you can move either the initiative token, which is the white one, or the red token, which is the momentum token. You can move it twice in this case. And you can also move a yellow token. In this case, if you're Nixon, you can move a yellow token if there's a token. If you're the other player, then you have to ask Nixon, is there a yellow token if they're still face down? Obviously, if they're at some point face up, then it's fine. But you need to ask Nixon if there's a yellow token that you can move. Nixon will say yes. If yes, it's flipped over and um, you can move it. Basically, so there's different cards. Um, and sorry again, but this is the like I mentioned, this is the other deck, and the other one is the Nixon deck. You can see it through the other side. So editor deck, the cards have Nixon resigns. The editor deck also has journalists. Um, and journalists, you can play them and they go on your discard pile. So unlike events, and then this is the Nixon deck. Nixon deck says confidential on the other side, and Nixon deck has besides events they have conspirators. So the events same as the editor deck. You remove the card from the game if you play the deck in most play the event in most cases. Conspirators they go on your discard pile. So you do it like this, and there's some deck management because do you want to play the event, but then the event goes is the card is removed from the game, or do you want to play it for the value, and then it eventually comes back into your hand. So there's some deck management there and some decisions to be made. We're going to alternate these actions back and forth until there's no more. Both players don't have any cards on their hands, according to the number of initiative that they've drawn. And at the end of this phase, there's going to be an evaluation phase. So any neutral tokens that are still here in zero go back to the bag. And the tokens are given to the side of the board that they're on. So if they're closer, these two tokens, if they're closer to the editor, they're given to the editor. If they're closer to Nixon, they're given to Nixon. The initiative token, like I said, determines who has initiative, which determines how many cards you can draw and if you play first or not. And if the initiative is still at space 0, then whoever had initiative continues to have initiative. And the red marker, the red token is called the momentum token. Again, if it's on the neutral space, no one wins it. But if Nixon wins this token, then the momentum token goes. I'm just going to put it here so it's easier to see. It goes here. And basically, this is how Nixon wins the game. Once Nixon has 5 momentum tokens, they immediately win the game. If the editor wins the momentum tokens, 2 things happen. The first thing is they prevent Nixon from putting momentum tokens on their card, but you also get to put a momentum token on the editor card, which at some point will give a bonus. So starting on momentum token 3, there will be a bonus. 3, 4, and 5, they give bonuses. This is not the way that the editor wins the game, but there's a bonus, and you're preventing your opponent from working towards winning the game. Like I said, the editor, the way that they win is through linking informants through evidence to Nixon. So momentum, and then basically the evidence tokens are going to be awarded, and they're going to be pinned on the board. So if Nixon has won an evidence token, then they can pin it on the board face down, and basically if the editor wins the token, this token, for example, they can put it anywhere. This is yellow and green. They could put it anywhere in the yellow and green space. Obviously, there's like you want to build. There's strategy involved in the way you do this because you want to build the shortest pathway that is possible also looking at the informants that you have. And if you're Nixon, you're basically you want to flip these over, so um, you're removing the connections. Um, so basically, editor, you place it face up to create connections. If you're Nixon, you're going to put it face down to disrupt connections. There's also some tokens is more of a specific thing, but some tokens will give you also an added bonus of already moving the next turn's momentum token one way, one space in your direction. This is basically a short overview of how the game works. Very good rule book. Very easy, short. Um, it's one of those rule books that there's not really a lot of questions that you're going to have after having a first read of it. You can play it. First play, you're going to be it's going to be very obvious how to play this without any questions or concerns. Um, there's a few other elements here and there that I haven't mentioned, but this is the gist of the game. Now, why would you like or not like this game? I think it's a pretty I think it's a pretty interesting game. I personally like the theme, so if you like the theme, you're gonna like it. If you like card-driven games, you're gonna like it. If you're a fan of war strategy games, you're probably gonna like it. Um, yeah, the game has a very interesting tug of war mechanic where you're trying to get these tokens to your side, but you also want to get the initiative token, but you also want to get the momentum token, and you're not going to be able to get all of them most likely. So you're going to have to make decisions. Do I invest, or do I go for the moment for the evidence tokens, or for the either the initiative or momentum token? uh, there's also something else that I didn't mention is if a token ever goes to the number 5 space, then that player automatically wins the token, and the token is no longer up for grabs during that round. So it's you basically secure it. So you might want to go for that, especially there's always an interesting thing, which is the player that has the initiative usually has the ability to play one last card in the round, and you really want to, if you're the other player, you want to make sure that you put one of the tokens out of reach for that player, so the player doesn't get it. So there's definitely a tug of war mechanic here. There's lots of strategy involved. um, so that's pretty neat. I think the board looks pretty interesting. It's very visual. You're gonna do the links between the different informants and Nixon, and you're gonna have, if you're the editor, you're gonna have to decide how do you slow down Nixon, prevent Nixon from getting the momentum tokens, but also make sure that you're making good progress here. Um, and making good progress, what does that mean? Do you go for multiple informants? Do you concentrate on two informants? If one of the pathways is already disrupted, what's plan B, etc.? And if you're Nixon, you're trying to slow down this as much as possible while you build up these momentum tokens. So it's very asymmetric. It's a fun game to play, both sides. And it certainly feels different. I think one thing that I like in the game is that the cards feel overpowered. The cards, obviously not the value part. The value part is um, it's pretty basically aligned with the event. Usually, the stronger the event, the stronger the value part, to make your decision a bit more difficult. But the events feel very powerful. For example, look at this one. And this one, conspirator Bob Haldeman. This is the Nixon deck. Um, the action is on the research track. Move each evidence token one step. And this is a low powered card, as you can see through the value here. But still, you're going to move each evidence token one step. That's quite a lot. And basically it's they feel overpowered. They feel like you're almost doing, a lot of stuff, like this one on the yeah. So like look at this one, for example, the smoking gun tape. On the research track, you're going to move the initiative token 2 steps. So initiative token is going to move 2 steps. Momentum token is going to move 2 steps. So let's say it was here, move 2 steps. And one face down evidence token is going to move 1 step. Uh, it's quite a lot. It's quite a lot. It almost feels like cheating. But the interesting thing is that even though the cards are different from on both decks, they're completely separate decks. It feels like the cards are very powerful on both sides. So if you feel that you're throwing a big haymaker with a big card, your opponent also has big cards. So it can be very swingy, but it's very swingy for both sides. So it feels overpowered, but it's actually not overpowered. Is what I think I'm trying to say here. Um, I think the other interesting point is that the game, because it depends on whether the editor is making progress here or whether Nixon is making progress here. Um, it feels you don't know when it's going to end, so it doesn't have a fixed number of rounds. It can end at any moment. If one of the player makes a big breakthrough, and you just need to account for that. You need to account for that happening. Obviously, if you're the editor, you know that if Nixon has 4 momentum tokens, they're 1 momentum token away from winning the game. But if you're Nixon, you just want to make sure that uh, this doesn't you don't lose control over what's happening here, because it can escalate quite quickly. So essentially, the game could be over in, let's say, 5 rounds, for example, if Nixon gets 5 momentum tokens. But it can and usually will take a bit longer to play, even though it doesn't drag on. So it doesn't feel like it's dragging on. It actually feels like there's some evolution in the beginning. There's no momentum track. There's no momentum tokens here. There's nothing on the board. But then things will start to fill up, and difficult decisions will have to be made. Why wouldn't you like this game? You wouldn't like this game if you're searching for something more, let's say, more confrontational, in the sense that there's actually combat and fighting. There's obviously no combat and fighting in this book, in this game. You if you don't like the theme, you're not gonna like this game. If the theme doesn't ring a bell to you, isn't something you're at least a bit interested in, or you want to know more about. If you're not interested in the theme, forget about it. The game mechanics are fine, but without the theme, I don't think there's anything there for you. Um, the other thing is, I think if you're playing against someone who is more experienced, knowing the decks makes a big difference. So knowledge about what's on the decks, what are like the key events, what do the conspirators do, etc., etc. This makes a big difference. So if you're playing against someone who has the same knowledge as you, fine. If not, you're at a disadvantage. But I guess the same could be said about a lot of games. Um, and I think that's it, really. I don't think there's anything else that you would you would potentially not like about this game. I think yeah, the theme, obviously, if you're looking for something a bit more involved, a bit longer, this is not that type of game. So this plays in 1 hour max. So it's something that quite portable, can be played at any time. So if you're looking for a more epic experience, this might not be it. But I think the game is what it is, and I think it's very, very good. I'm quite impressed by this game. It's a fun game. Um, you learn stuff about Watergate along the way. Lots of interesting decisions. Um, Lots of back and forth haymakers, which make the game quite interesting. I said swingy, but it's swingy in a good way. Don't get me wrong. And also, I it's one of those games that you're going to read the rule book in maybe 20 to 30 minutes, and you're going to be able to play without having to look at it much. It's very clear. There's no questions or things like that that you need to clarify. So I'm going to give this game an 8 out of 10, and that's a big thumbs up for me. Thanks for watching.